event from where you are. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as well as all children and young people participating in this event. Welcome to the celebration for the launch of General Comment 26 on children's rights and the environment with a special focus on climate change. On behalf of the organizers, I'd like to extend our warm greetings and thankfulness to everyone joining in this child and youth-led event. I am Rodushi Shardar, a child advisor of COVID-19 and a child activist from Bangladesh. Today, we all are here to celebrate the launch of General Comment 26, as well as highlighting children's environmental rights and the activism and advocacy of children and youth. It is an event where we shall spread awareness about children's rights, especially in the context of climate change. This is an event for children and led by children. In the beginning, we'd like to mention that this event is organized by Terre, Hommes International Federation and COVID-19. Special thanks to the Office of the Special Representative to the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. The Secretary General of Terre, Hommes International Federation and our event partners, Child Rights Connect, Mtoto News, Child Rights Coalition Asia, and CRYA Thailand. Now, over to my peer, Amrit Rijal.
Hello, everyone. Namaskar. My name is Amit Rizal, and I'm a child rights activist from Nepal. I'm involved in COVID-19 initiatives since 2021 as a peer mentor. I and COVID-19 child advisor Rodoshi are the MCs for today's event. I would like to take you to the agenda of the event. We are here today connected virtually to celebrate the launch of General Comment number 26 on children's rights and the environment with a special focus on climate change. The total duration of this virtual event will be around 1.5 hours. In the first half of the event, we have a panel discussion of diverse and distinguished speakers from around the world, which will run for an hour. Then in the second half of the event, we have live stream from Geneva. Prateek, who is one of the peer mentor at COVID-19 initiative, has attended the launch of General Comment 26, and he will connect with us, sharing his reflection about the official launch. As a part of housekeeping, I would like to notify you all that the event is being recorded. The event is also being live streamed in YouTube through Mtoto News YouTube channel. The general language that will be used is English, but we do have translation in Thai and Spanish. You can enable the translation channel in the webinar as per your necessity. We do have a Thai channel. We don't have a Thai channel in the Zoom. So if you are accessing Thai translation, please go to Arabic channel where you will get Thai translation. The translation is only available for panel discussion. The official launch of the General Comment can be viewed through the UNTV, and the additional information about General Comment 26 can be gathered from GC26 CAT, that is the Hommes International Federation, COVID-19, Child Rights Connect, and Children's Environmental Rights Initiative social media handles. Now, I would like to pass the floor to Rodoshi regarding safeguarding and code of conduct. Over to you, Rodoshi.
Before the event, we'd like to remind each of our participants and audience that we have some safeguarding policies and codes of conduct for the event since many of us are children. Therefore, me and my peer shall read out our safeguarding policies and codes of conduct for everyone. We're requesting you to abide by the rules. First of all, we need to know that who is defined as a child. We, aligned with the UNCRC, define a child is anyone under the age of 18 years old. Organizations who work with children, including all organizations that are hosting this event today, have a responsibility to make sure that children who participate in their events and activities are safe from harm. We call this child safeguarding. Unfortunately, online and offline, there is always a risk that children may experience harm. We are asking all participants in the event today to make a pledge to keep everyone safe and make our time together here today fun, supportive, and inclusive for all children around the world. The organizers will remove anyone from the meeting who is not respecting the pledge or who is acting in any way that harms children. It is a message towards every children and And other than them, everyone. It is important for you to know that it's not your fault if someone hurts you.
The pledge for participants. During the event today, we ask you to pledge to treat others with respect and dignity. During the event, through the chat and or on social media, please be respectful and friendly. Do not shout, tease, bully, or use any form of violence or bad language. We all are equal, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, age, religion, education, ability, cultural background, or anything else. There will be many different opinions and ideas, and it is important that we welcome, respect, and celebrate this diversity. Try to use very simple language and avoid any complicated words, and try to speak slowly. If something is not clear, ask someone to explain it. We want to hear what all participants have to say. Everyone should feel welcome and listened to in our shared space. When someone is speaking, please don't interrupt. Your participation is completely voluntary. It is your choice to take part, and you can decide not to join in the discussion at any time. You can also stop talking and answering questions at any time you like. Please do not share any personal information or your passport with anyone. Please also do not share photos or information from private conversation with other participants on social media without approval and telling them what you are going to do with them. If you feel heard, or see another, there are two people who are responsible for child safeguarding, and you can there are two people who are responsible for child safeguarding, and you can message them directly in the chat or send them an email if something bad happens to you or another child during today's event. The safeguarding focal point for this event are Alcatal Lascu and Christian Hope from Terre. Home. Their email is being displayed in the screen. Thank you, have fun, and enjoy yourself in the event. Thank you everyone for your patience. Now we will move to the first part of the event, that is panel discussion. I would like to hand over the floor to the moderators of the discussion. Over to the moderators.
Thank you, Amrit. Thank you, Radoshi. That was really helpful. A very warm welcome to everybody present here today who has joined us from all over the world. I'm Preyashi. I'm a 17-year-old child rights activist from Kolkata, India, and I will be the moderator for today's event alongside my lovely friends from the COVID-19 initiative, Januka and Kristen. Januka and Kristen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Thank you, Prayasi. Hello, everyone. Namaskar. I am Januka. I am a 20 years old child rights activist from Nepal, and I'm involved in the COVID-19 initiative as a peer mentor. I once again welcome you all to our event today. Thank you so much for joining us. Now I would like to invite Kristen to introduce herself. Over to you, Kristen.
Greetings, everyone around the world. We are so delighted to have you here with us today. Thank you so much. My name is Kristen Hope. I work with Terre, and I've been coordinating COVID under 19 since 2020. And the best part about this work is being able to work alongside passionate children and young people, like many of you in the audience and like all of those who are involved today. And we are delighted to be here to celebrate children's environmental rights with you today.
Thank you, Januka. Thank you, Kristen. So, as Radoshi has already said, that we have gathered here today to celebrate the launch of the GC26 of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. But our main priority today is to spread awareness among the children and the young generation who actually care about the core message of the GC26 regarding the rights of children in the context of climate change, and not just climate change, but also further environmental threats that may pose our lives and our generation in the future. So, as we all know, one of the most pressing issues faced by our generation today is climate change. And that's why it's important for us to learn and enforce our rights to fight for our lives. And after all, we're the ones who will take over the world soon. So we as children have joined to spread awareness about these policies designed for us, by us, to battle the looming threat of climate change and its harmful impacts. This watch party is a result of the ongoing partnership between COVID-19 and Terre, Hommes International Federation, along with the UNCRC. And we have been fortunate enough to have gotten a platform to voice our opinions through this partnership that started during the pandemic, and we have come so far from it since. Now I would request Januka to take over.
Thank you again, Priyasi. So today, as we celebrate the launch of General Comment 26, let us remember that GC 26 is not just a piece of document, but it is a reflection of our voices and our efforts for a more sustainable future. It represents the power of child-led environmental actions and the impact we can have together when we come together to fight for children's environmental rights. So now, without any further ado, let's get into today's event. And we are excited to kick off our event with some interactive polling using Mentimeter. To help us with this, we have our co-moderator, Kristen, who is handling the technical part in this section. You will find a link in the chat box. Please click on the link to access Mentimeter. And once you have clicked the link, you will be asked to enter the code. And the code is, you may get the code on the chat box as well. So the code is 37939356. After you enter the code, you will see a question on your screen. Please take a moment to answer it. And the first question is, where are you from? We are very curious to know that where are our audience joining from. So please tell us your country, not the city that you are joining from. So I can see Nepal, Colombia, Switzerland. People are joining from different parts and different world. I can see Northern Ireland, Germany, Hungary, Indonesia, Thailand, so many diverse group of people. Sorry, I cannot take all the name of the countries, but I'm very happy that we have a diverse group joining us here today for this event. So we are very, very thankful. Thank you from our COVID-19 team and partner. So let's move to the second question. And the second question is, how much do you know about the General Comment 26? So if you are not familiar with the question, please do not worry. If you are familiar, share your questions. You can share your questions using the Q&A functions regarding General Comment 26, and our panelists will later answer your questions during the question answer round. And if you are not familiar, you don't have to worry, because this event is a great opportunity for you to know and learn about General Comment 26. So we will make sure that you will learn something great before this event ends. So I can see the results on the screen. As you can see, not much. This is the first time I hear about it. Means very few people don't know about General Comment. And the people who I know a bit about it, most of the people know a little bit about General Comment, and the people who know about General Comment is an average. So yeah, we are very happy. We have all the three types of diverse group who know, who don't know, and who know a little bit about General Comment. So please do not worry, you will learn about it during the event. Now, to introduce our intergenerational panelists and to lead us to the first round of panel discussion, I pass the floor to Priyasi. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Januka, for that fun little polling session. Today, we have a stellar list of panelists lined up who will be sharing their very valuable insights on the GC26 and their roles in the process. Our first panelist is Anna, who is a 17-year-old Venezuelan child rights activist. Her activism is specially dedicated to topics like bullying, gender-based violence, inequality, and how the climate crisis affects the rights of children and teenagers all around the world. Next, going in alphabetical order, we have Caterina Lorenzo, who is a 16-year-old Brazilian professional surfer, global youth climate, and social environmental activist, as well as a student. She is a child advisor for the Child Rights Connect Advisory Team 2023. Thirdly, we have Fa. Fa is an 18-year-old activist from Thailand. She is a representative of the Child Rights Youth Activist Network in Thailand, and she campaigns on issues such as climate, children's rights, and violence. Up next, we have Francisco. Francisco is 14 years old from Colombia. He is an activist and defender of human right to a healthy environment. He is also the founder of Guardians for Life. Joining us as our youngest panelist, we have Karan, a 13-year-old child journalist at Mtoto News, a child rights activist, and the youngest member of the National Council for the Administration of Justice Standing Committee on Children in Kenya. We also have with us Valerie. Valerie is the Secretary General of Terre, Hommes International Federation. Since 1996, Valerie Ceccherini has led and supported international aid and human rights activities in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. We are also honored to be joined by Dr. Najat Malla Majid. Dr. Najat is the United Nations Special Representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. Najat is from Morocco. A medical doctor in pediatrics, has over the last 3 decades devoted her life to promotion and protection of children's rights. Last but definitely not the least, we have our very own COVID-19 member, Dhruv. Dhruv Bhatt, 18, is an environmental and child rights defender working with several international organizations and initiatives such as COVID-19 to highlight youth and child perspectives in policymaking. I would like to extend a huge thank you to all the panelists for being here today with us and sharing their interesting and valuable opinions. We're so excited to hear from you today. To kick off today's panel, I would like to request Dr. Najat to share with us what is the GC26 and why it is important to the children and young people all around the world.
Thank you, dear Priyashi. I am really happy to be here with you today and to see many faces that I saw since at least 3 years. Dear children, dear young people, dear friends, and dear participants, it's really a pleasure to join you today for this milestone moment as we're celebrating together the launch of the CRC GC26 that reminds that the Convention on the Rights of the Child apply to environmental protection and confirms that children have a right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. This general comment comes at a crossroad and critical moment, as children who bear the least responsibility for the climate crisis are among those hit the hardest by its impact. According to UNICEF, around 1 billion children are at extremely high risk of being affected by the climate crisis. This general comment comes at a crossroad and critical moment, as despite various commitments, various scope and policies to tackle the climate crisis, the protection of children and of their rights is not duly addressed. Dear children and young people, thanks to your tireless mobilization and activism, you built the momentum behind this general comment. You have been at the forefront, and you are still, alerting the world on the impact of climate crisis and environmental degradation on children, and acting as human rights and environmental rights defenders, claiming social and climate justice. The General Comment 26 is an achievement, but not an ending result, as highlighted Januka. To avoid that this comment fall to the wayside and be forgotten, we need to disseminate it widely, to use it as a strong advocacy tool for making right to a clean, healthy, sustainable, and safe environment a reality for all children, leaving no one behind. We need to continue speaking up, acting, advocating with and for you. And as usual, you can count on my support. Thank you, Priyesh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Najat, for all the support and all your valuable insights. It is, in fact, true that those who are the least liable for the climate change get affected by it the most. Francisco, what are your thoughts on the importance of the general comment number 26?
Hola a todos y a todas. Espero que me puedan escuchar y a su vez ver bien. Espero que sí. Pues bueno, es un gusto, la verdad, saludarlos, estar hoy con ustedes compartiendo este espacio tan especial, la verdad. Para mí ha sido pues un trabajo y un esfuerzo muy grande del cual estoy pues muy orgulloso. Y la verdad quisiera pues para empezar, para contestar a la pregunta respecto a cuál es la importancia del comentario general número 26, quisiera mencionar pues que bueno, primero ha sido un comentario general que ha sido hecho con los niños. Ha habido una participación muy amplia de niños de hasta 121 países, ¿no? De todo el mundo, y creo que eso es algo muy significativo, la verdad. También esta vez también se menciona, el comité reconoce ese derecho humano a un ambiente limpio, sano y digno, ¿no? Y cómo la responsabilidad de ese derecho no solo la tienen los gobiernos, también la tienen las empresas y otros actores más. Por lo que esto es una cosa muy importante. También, así como lo mencionó la panelista anterior, el comentario general llega en un momento clave, llega en un momento crítico, pues para la situación medioambiental y climática, en donde, por ejemplo, el IPCC nos ha dicho que pues tenemos aún tiempo, tenemos una oportunidad, pero esa oportunidad que utiliza metafóricamente la metáfora de una ventana, se va cerrando esa ventana, esa oportunidad se va cerrando, así que aún tenemos tiempo para actuar y para actuar también respecto a los derechos de los niños. Así que creo que ahí radica en gran parte la importancia de este comentario general, y pues ojalá que todas las recomendaciones, todas las recomendaciones que extiende el comité a los estados sean una realidad, y la verdad se garantice ese derecho fundamental a un medio ambiente limpio, sano y digno. Es un derecho pues a tener el aire limpio, es un derecho a poder tener ríos con agua, a tener bosques con árboles, a tener mares con peces. Y parece un poco obvio lo que estoy diciendo, ¿no? ¿Qué tiene un bosque? Pues árboles, ¿no? Pero en realidad no es obvio. De hecho, pues eso es el problema, ese es el problema: la crisis climática, la crisis planetaria, la pérdida de biodiversidad y la contaminación están llevándonos precisamente, como lo dice la misma ciencia, al borde de una extinción masiva, como lo puede llegar a ser la sexta extinción masiva de la especie. Por lo que esto es una situación sumamente grave, y de ahí la necesidad, de ahí proviene la necesidad de actuar lo más pronto posible. Es fundamental que, pues como lo menciona el comentario general, se tomen todas las medidas tanto de mitigación, de adaptación al cambio climático, y pues también se tenga en cuenta y se ponga en el centro la agenda de los niños. Nuestra agenda como niños, como niñas, como adolescentes, no puede esperar. Nuestras vidas y nuestras voces deben de ser escuchadas por los gobiernos, por los tomadores de decisiones, pero también, como lo mencionas, pues, comentario general, por las empresas, que es una cosa muy destacable, por todos los actores de la sociedad. Así que ahí yo creo que radica la principal importancia del comentario general número 26. Y de nuevo les agradezco, ha sido la verdad pues un gusto poder compartir esa opinión mía. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Francesco. It's a privilege to have you here. I couldn't agree more with you when you said that this is a small window and we must make the most of it. And we must use this as an opportunity for a better future for us, so that we can access clean water and the biodiversity doesn't die out. What about you, Anna? What do you think of the General Comment 26, and why is it important for us today?
Well, I think the General Comment 26, it's really important for children all around the world to know their rights and to stand out for the rights to a clean and healthy environment and to live a happy and healthy life, because it's one proof of advocacy from children to children for them to live a better future. And it's also a call to action to the governments and states and organizations and all sorts of people in important positions of power to take an action in the climate crisis, because it's not just our present, it's not just our planet, It's our future and also the future of all the generations that come after us.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that wonderful outlook. I think that's exactly what sustainable development is all about. We need to look out for our generation, our future generation. So thank you so much. Valerie, could you please tell us why is the General Comment 26 important and how has Terre des Hommes contributed to it?
Sure. So first of all, I'm also very glad and honored to join this conversation today. And I must start by saying that I'm in full agreement with what has been said on the importance of the comment until now. So to add to this, I will say, to respond to the question on why is this important, I think because acting today to respond to the consequences of the environmental crisis and to prevent further environmental degradation is an absolute priority. So Terre des Hommes does not consider this issue as one amongst others. We know that this crisis will have a growing and massive impact on all of us and across the board at all levels, in all sectors, and especially on future generations, as it has been said. We know that it will have strong socio-economic consequences, increasing the lack of available vital resources such as food and water, and increasing also the number and magnitude of natural and man-made disasters. And of course, we're already seeing this. And this will particularly, as it was said, affect the poorest countries, which are not well equipped to face such crises. It will lead to increased poverty, inequalities, more violence and wars, and to massive forced movement of population. So providing adequate responses to the consequences of this crisis and preventing our environment and preserving it is not only critical to ensure the realization of all children and human rights, but it's simply vital for the future generation and for the future of humanity itself. So this is why today we welcome with great enthusiasm and hope the General Comment 26 on children's rights and the environment. It is a critical step forward. The General Comment 26 is a very important text because it provides authoritative guidance to governments about how children's rights are impacted by the environmental crisis and what governments must do to uphold those rights to ensure that children live in a clean, healthy, and sustainable world. For civil society organizations like Terre des Hommes and for child and young climate activists, the General Comment 26 will also be a very useful advocacy tool to advance children's rights. So indeed, as the General Comment is directly linked and part of the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, which is a binding treaty for states and the most ratified, it will certainly help to strengthen our advocacy and increase its impact. And as this has been said, it's so important to ensure that this translates into action. I think the question was also how we contributed to the comment and the development of the comment. So for Terre des Hommes, the launch of the General Comment 26 is a real milestone because since the day of general discussion on children's rights and the environment in 2016, we have been pushing for the UN to take more leadership in supporting governments to develop child rights laws, policies, and practices, taking more into account environmental issues, and for environmental related laws, policies, and practices to be child sensitive. And with the adoption of the General Comment 26, the Committee on the Right of the Child is solidly taking this leadership. So this General Comment shows to climate activists across the world as well that their demands and concerns are being listened to. We were honored to play a key role in the development of the General Comment. Our member, Terre des Hommes Germany, was selected as official civil society partner to support the committee, experts and children in the process of drafting it. And we supported child participation in the drafting of this General Comment by organizing a child advisory team. And some members are here with us today. Terre des Hommes worked with this team to develop tools to consult with children across the world and almost 17,000 children from 121 countries contributed. So we are delighted that the text of the general comment situates children's voices front and center. I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate all the children who took part in this initiative and developed the general comment, which is so comprehensive and spot on. This is a fantastic achievement that you can certainly be proud of. And of course, we remain committed to support you, to promote it and to ensure its implementation. Thank you.
Wow, Valerie, thank you so much, especially for highlighting how we have the governments who have been highlighted that they have been given the authoritative rights of children so that we can actually hold someone accountable and ensure that our voice actually reaches to the higher levels. With the first question done, I would like to move on to our next question for the day, where I would like to ask the panelists how they have been involved in climate change activism in their countries and influence decision makers, starting off with Karen.
Hello, I'm not sure if you can see me. The camera is really bad. My name is Karen. I'm 13 years old. I am a trained journalist, an environmentalist, and the youngest member of the National Council of the Justice of Children in Kenya. I would like to talk about the way me and our group of children, we came together last week on Saturday and Sunday to create a document called we wrote a declaration on how us children can be able to to show how we have the solutions, and we handed it over to the presidents of multiple countries, like the president of Kenya, the president of Chad, the president of Sierra Leone, and multiple other presidents I cannot remember. And I would like to, I'm actually quite happy that us children have gotten the chance to express our feelings and show that we have the initiatives and that we can help solve climate change and that we can do whatever everyone else can do.
Wow, Karen, thank you so much for your hard work and presence today. Fa, how have you participated in the climate change activism in Thailand?
Hello สวัสดีค่ะพูดถึงอันนั้นเลยใช่ไหมคะได้ยินไหมคะพี่นิกกี้ได้ยินไหมคะ
Yes, yes.
โอเค
We can hear you in the English channel.
ค่ะจะมาสวัสดีทุกคนนะคะ ชื่อฟ้านะคะ เป็นแกนนำเยาวชนในเรื่องของเยาวชนนักสิทธิเด็กล้านนาค่ะ CRYA ค่ะ แล้วก็เป็นแกนนำเยาวชนมูลนิธิสวานิมิตค่ะหนูนะคะก็เป็นนักเคลื่อนไหวด้านสิทธิเด็กแล้วก็สิ่งแวดล้อมค่ะ ค่ะ ก็เห็นว่า GC 26เนี้ยที่ออกมาเนี่ยมันเป็นความเป็นเหมือนความภาคภูมิใจแล้วก็ความสำคัญมากๆที่พวกเราเนี่ยได้เห็นนะคะ เพราะว่าได้ทำให้สะท้อนเห็นถึงความคิดของเด็กแล้วก็เยาวชนค่ะ ที่พวกเราเนี่ยได้เป็นส่วนหนึ่งในการร่างนโยบายนี้ขึ้นมาค่ะเพื่อที่แล้วก็เห็นเป็นรูปเป็นร่างพวกเราค่ะตื่นเต้นมากๆค่ะ ที่ได้เห็น CC 26นี้ออกมานะคะด้วยความที่หนูเองเนี่ยเป็นตัวแทนเยาวชนเครือข่ายนะคะ พวกเราก็เคยรวบรวมความคิดเห็นที่จะพวกเราเคยแสดงความคิดเห็นในกระบวนการข้อเสนอแนะพัฒนาความเห็นทั่วไปค่ะ โดยเราจะพูดถึงเรื่องของน้ำนะคะ ในช่วงเดือนมกราในต้นปีที่ผ่านมานั่นเองค่ะ แล้วเราก็ได้ไปฟังความคิดเห็นของเพื่อนๆคนอื่นๆนะคะ ไม่ว่าจะทั้งในประเทศไทยแล้วก็ต่างประเทศนะคะ ที่องค์การสหประชาชาติ UN นั่นเองค่ะ ก็พวกเราก็ได้เห็นว่ามันเป็นรูปเป็นร่างขึ้นมาแล้วค่ะ แล้วในวันนี้ตอนไม่กี่ชั่วโมงที่ผ่านมานี้นะคะหนูก็ได้เข้าร่วมประชุมออนไลน์ ซึ่ง จัดโดยกรมกิจกรรมเด็กแล้วก็เยาวชนครอบครัวนะคะ ในฐานะที่เป็นตัวแทนเยาวชนเนี่ยหนูได้กล่าวแถลงการนะคะ แล้วก็ให้ความเห็นนะคะ ในนามของตัวแทนเครือข่ายเยาวชนนักกิจกรรมเพื่อสิทธิเด็กค่ะซึ่งผลพวกนี้ค่ะส่งผลกระทบต่อเด็กในทางภาคเหนือของประเทศไทยค่ะนั่นหมายความว่าพวกเราเนี่ยได้ส่งเสียงออกไปนะคะ ให้หน่วยงานรัฐที่รับผิดชอบที่เกี่ยวข้องกับเรื่องนี้เขาก็รับฟังความคิดเห็นของพวกเราค่ะ
Wow, Fa, that's some really inspiring work and sounds super elaborate. Thank you so much. We're so grateful to have you here with us. Coming back to you, Francesco, I would like to ask how you have contributed to the General Comment 26, whose launch we're celebrating today.
Sí, claro que sí, pues bueno, no, muchas gracias. Yo por mi parte he estado desde el principio con los demás asesores del comentario general, difundiendo pues en ese proceso de información lo que es como tal, para que también los niños puedan participar. Yo pues por mi parte, yo soy activista climático, ¿no? Tengo un movimiento ambiental que fundé hace 3 años que se llama Guardianes por la Vida, y tenemos diversos procesos de educación ambiental, climática y ciudadana. En esos procesos tenemos, por ejemplo, una red de escuelas guardianas por la vida, en donde hay profesores de todo el país y también de algunas otras partes de Latinoamérica, por lo que por medio de estos profesores y de las instituciones educativas hemos podido llegar a bastantes niños para que pudieran participar y hacer parte activamente pues de las consultas que se hicieron con el comentario y con todo, y con TDH y con pues bueno, con en general todo el grupo que ha estado trabajando, ¿no? Así que por una parte eso, esa incidencia desde los colegios, difundiendo el comentario general y motivando a los chicos, a los estudiantes a participar, y también desde las redes sociales hemos estado muy activos, dando a conocer precisamente lo que es y la importancia precisamente de que los niños pudieran participar, los niños de Colombia y pues de Latinoamérica básicamente. También en España, que es donde vivo, lo estuvimos movilizando con otras organizaciones de defensa de los derechos de los niños en Madrid, y en México también con otras organizaciones que no sé si aquí están presentes, pero a las cuales también les extiendo un saludo muy especial. Y finalmente, tras la publicación del comentario general, hemos estado con algunos estados movilizando pues y la importancia de que las recomendaciones sean acogidas y sean hechas realidad. Por ejemplo, hace yo creo 2 semanas, una semana, estuve en Brasilia, desde Brasil, entregándole el comentario general a la ministra de Medio Ambiente, Marina Silva, expresándole esa importancia de que desde las políticas públicas, pues del Brasil, ¿no? Un país muy importante, sobre todo por la Amazonía, ¿no? Ya sabemos, también tengan en cuenta las recomendaciones pues de este comentario general y sean tomadas específicamente en cuenta, ¿no? O también en el caso de Colombia, mi país, movilizándolo con algunas instituciones y gobiernos más locales, regionales, básicamente, como es el caso pues de una zona que es el Putumayo y Cundinamarca, básicamente. Así que ese es el trabajo en el que me he visto envuelto, involucrado en este proceso del comentario general, representando pues a esos asesores del comentario general. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Francesco. Dhruv, please tell us a bit more about your work as a climate activist, including any challenges that you may have faced along the way.
Thank you, Priyashi, for posing the question and for the excellent introduction. Hi again, I'm Dhruv from Uttarakhand, a climate vulnerable state in India, where extreme floods wipe off entire villages from existence, landslides cause extended school closures, and severe forest fires destroy a natural heritage. And so without formal climate and human rights education, I know from a young age that the climate crisis is definitely a child rights crisis and that I have a role to play in raising awareness about this issue. I started my climate advocacy at age 11 by writing stories, poems, blogs. Just like Francisco said, I was inspired for saving the our rivers, which we consider holy, our hills, our forests, and just a right to a healthy environment. Apart from this, I regularly organize workshops to raise awareness and support child rights, just like this one. I also mentor young environmental activists in Nepal, Nigeria, and the US by helping them create engaging campaigns and build a strong online presence to mobilize their communities. Coming to the challenges, my most significant challenge as a child was the lack of child-friendly information about the climate crisis. Growing up in a small city, I also missed out on many opportunities simply because I didn't know about them. I firmly believe that there are countless young Gretas and Franciscos at the very forefront of the crisis, but that just need a little support to ignite their own global climate movements and lead charge for a shared future. That is why, as a COVID-19 child advisor, I co-created the COVID-19 Living Climate Resource List. A climate resource list includes 70 plus child-friendly resources, from climate magazines to climate games and even models that educate children about the climate crisis, UNCRC, youth-led organizations, and international advocacy opportunities. We keep on updating the Living Climate Resource List, hence the name Living. And just soon, later this month, we'll add a new section dedicated just to General Comment 26, including a recording of our event today and a child-friendly version of General Comment 26 when it comes out. So stay tuned for that. And with this, I'll pass the ball back to Priyashi. Thank you so much again for this question.
Thank you, Dhruv. Your work is so inspiring, considering you started off at such a young age with such a creative method of activism. Thank you, Dhruv. Now, I would like to ask Katerina about her work as a climate change activist. Thank you so much for waiting while our other panelists finish, and thank you so much for your patience. Over to you, Katerina.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity for being here and for the question. To start with all, for my climate activism in my country, I first of all start with myself. I always think of my habits and how in my daily life and in my daily home, through basic actions, I can constantly help my goal of solving the climate crisis. But my first actual fight that I got involved was the fight to protect a natural forest here in my city, Salvador, located in Bahia, Brazil. And we do this action by promoting people to meet the forest, but we also do a lot of advocacy by pressuring the local governments to pass policies to protect this area. And this was actually my first activism fight, which I can say I'm involved since I'm very, very young, because my family were the founders of protecting this forest. And therefore, when my mom was pregnant, technically, I was already there with her. In addition to that, I also have a project called Eco Clube Sustentare, which promotes sustainable and environmental education, where we're going to have an online platform launched by the end of this year with materials focused for children and kids about the environment and about the climate crisis, in addition to have practical actions for the starts focusing on our communities to help our community grow and be empowered while also promoting this environmental and sustainable education. When it comes to international organizations, that I bring the international mindedness also to my community, I have to always talk about Airshore Oceans, which is an organization founded by youth, for youth, preparing the next generations to face the multi-generation crisis, the water crisis, the food crisis, the climate crisis, also creating the next young leaders of this planet. And as already stated, I'm also a 2023 Child Rights Connect Child Advisor, which Through Child Rights Connect, I also have the opportunity to connect with incredible youth from all over the world and have incredible opportunities. But going a bit more in the sense of advocacy, I want to speak of an opportunity that I had to be a High Seas Youth Ambassador. For those who don't know, recently we had the High Seas Treaty negotiations over, finally being signed by nations. And as a High Seas Youth Ambassador, we were part of the process to bring the youth perspectives to the table and to the negotiations. And the main way we did that was making letters and contacting directly government representatives and government officials to bring forward our demands. Finally, I would like to say that in 2019, I believe this was one of the greatest advocacy movements I was part of. Together with 15 other youths, I filed a petition called Children versus Climate Crisis on the Committee of the Rights of the Child, denouncing 5 countries for violating children's rights due to climate inaction. And sadly, the petition almost 2 years later was not able to be taken forward due to technical reasons, as the committee explained. But even though that was very sad, it was used as fuel by us who were part of the petition to continue acting to promote action towards the climate crisis. And also, even though our petition was not taken forward, it did help children's rights to be recognized as being violated by the climate and environmental crisis. And to finally finalize everything that I'm saying, I would like to finalize with a call to action. But first of all, I'd like to point out that we children, we shouldn't be doing this. We should be focused on playing. We should be focused on growing. We should be focused on studying and on being children. But sadly, due to the inaction and due to the lack of action of the older generations, we are having the need to step forward because of our future and actually our present, because the climate crisis is a crisis of the present. And therefore, I would like to call to action all youth and children to be part of local groups, to start a group in your community, to start to advocate to the protection of your rights and to the protection of the environment, because with that, you also get the protection of your rights, and also think of your own actions and of your own habits, which are also ways to make change in your daily lives. Thank you very much.
Katerina, thank you so much. I absolutely love your energy and your passion towards the youth and how we as children are actually supposed to be living our childhood, but today we're forced into, not forced into, even though it's by choice, but now we're obligated to be advocates for climate change simply because the adults won't act sometimes. And I also love your project, which is so on point for our theme here today, to spread awareness about climate change and our rights in this context. Thank you so much to all the panelists for a riveting round 1 of questions. I would now like to pass the floor to Januka to take over the second round. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prayasi. Thank you for initiating this insightful discussion. I'm very impressed with the insights and the thoughts of our brilliant intergenerational panelists. So before we start the next round of questions, I would like to remind our audiences that you can also participate by asking questions to our panelists using the Q&A function. So please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section. I also request our panelists to be very brief with their answers, because we don't want to run out of our time. So thank you so much for understanding. Now let's continue our discussion. So as Valerie mentioned earlier, about over 16,000 children were involved in drafting the General Comment 26. And this is one of the greatest milestone movement for child rights movement. And it is the effort of children and young people, actually the child environmental activism that led to the launch of CC26. So I would like to hear from our panelists their reaction to this milestone movement. So first, starting with Dr. Nazat. What are your reactions to this, Nazat? How do you feel about the movement?
Thank you, Januka. You know, it's very difficult to speak after all these wonderful experts, leaders, passionate, and very frankly, I have no more to add because, you know, I think I will have to retire and to stop fighting because you are doing it so well. So a really congratulations, to be very frank with you. And as I highlighted in my opening remarks, you were, all of you, behind the momentum regarding, you know, this comment. And I think but it's not the end, as you highlighted, Januka, in the beginning. And I think it's also how we can move forward, making sure that it's embedded in all, you know, the work, in all the fight for children's rights. It's not a right to be seen isolated, but it's linked with all these rights, all the other rights. I think it's important. The second point, what I heard is also making, you know, accountable and also the policymaker, business sectors, and really to make sure that they are taking it into account. So what is important for us today and with you is really to monitor all this implementation to make sure that it's duly implemented. And my last point, to be very short, I think you are doing wonderfully well. But I think also it's important to ask ourselves, I will channel your voices as usual. I will give you the floor. I will give you the visibility, but not only about your concern, about your initiative also, because you are doing well. But I have a request also, and let me know also how my mandate could help to make sure that all children worldwide are reached, and mainly those who are not visible and those who are forgotten, because we need to keep this movement very strong and to widespread it. This is very important. So to my final words, because I have to leave to another meeting to try to convince, you know, policymakers to make sure that children's rights are seen as an investment. So just to make sure that they are seeing them as the present and the future, but before investing in at this moment. So I just want to tell you that I am inspired by your work. You know, I want to tell you one thing. When I am tired speaking with all, trying to convince, and I am in a meeting like that with you, and I will have another meeting here in my office with 8 strong activist children. So I feel myself energized. So many thanks for giving me this energy. Many thanks for giving me, you know, having more and more, you know, strength really to fight for children's rights, because it's not an easy task, but together we can make it. So many thanks to all of you.
Thank you so much, Nazad, for your commitment, being in the highest post, like being the special representative of violence, Secretary General on Violence Against Children. You are so committed and so friendly, and you are giving credit to all the children and young people for being the energy whenever you feel tired or whenever you work. So thank you so much, and we wish you best of luck for your meeting with the policymakers. We hope that it will go good. So thank you for being with us in the event. Thank you so much for your insights. So moving on to our next panelist, Fa. What do you think about it, Fa? What are your reactions? How do you feel about the movement?
หลังจากที่ GC26 เปิดตัวออกมานะคะ ก็เห็นว่าแต่ละประเทศเนี่ยมีความสนใจในเรื่องนี้มากๆเลยค่ะ รวมถึงพวกหนูนะคะ ตัวแทนจากประเทศไทยเองเนี่ยก็มีความตื่นเต้นมากๆเช่นกันค่ะ ที่ได้เห็น GC26 เปิดตัวออกมานะคะภาพที่พวกเรานะคะกลุ่มตัวแทนเยาวชนอยากเห็นเนี่ยจะเป็นการมีพื้นที่สร้างสรรค์แล้วก็ปลอดภัยให้กับเด็กแล้วก็เยาวชนในการแสดงความคิดเห็นค่ะแล้วก็อยากให้รัฐบาลทำความเข้าใจกับ GC26 อย่างจริงจังค่ะประสานกันเองกับภาคส่วนต่างๆให้ทุกคนเข้าใจเรื่องนี้ก่อนเพื่อที่จะได้มาซัพพอร์ตเด็กๆนะคะในการสนับสนุนได้อย่างชัดเจนแล้วก็ถูกต้องตามที่ GC26 ได้กล่าวไว้ค่ะแล้วก็อยากเห็นเด็กทุกคนเนี่ยมีสิทธิเท่าเทียมกันนะคะในเรื่องของการแสดงออกในด้านสภาพแวดล้อมหรือว่าสิ่งแวดล้อมต่างๆค่ะแล้วพวกหนูเองนะคะที่เป็น change maker เนี่ยก็อยากจะทำพวกเราคุยกันแล้วมันจะมีอยู่3 หัวข้อใหญ่ๆนะคะก็จะเป็นข้อ1นะคะพวกเราเนี่ยอยากจะให้ความรู้ด้านสิ่งแวดล้อมแล้วก็สิทธิเด็กค่ะให้กับเด็กและเยาวชนให้พวกเขาเนี่ยได้ตระหนักถึงผลกระทบของสิ่งแวดล้อมที่มันไม่ดีนะคะให้ตระหนักถึงผลกระทบเพื่อที่พวกเขาเนี่ยจะได้ช่วยกันรณรงค์อย่างยั่งยืนค่ะไม่ใช่แค่เพียงชั่วคราวนะคะค่ะข้อ2นะคะจะเป็น พวกเราเนี่ยอยากจะประชาสัมพันธ์ข้อมูลของ GC26 ค่ะให้ออกไปให้เด็กทุกภาคส่วนนะคะ ได้ทำความเข้าใจเรื่องของ GC26 นะคะ รวมถึงหน่วยงานแล้วก็ภาคส่วนต่างๆ ให้เขาเข้าใจอย่างจริงๆค่ะว่าGC26 คืออะไรนะคะ เหมือนเข้าไปอยู่ในแผนตรงนั้นด้วยค่ะ แล้วก็ข้อที่สามนะคะพวกเราเนี่ยอยากจะเผยแพร่ผ่านสื่อออนไลน์แล้วก็ออนไซต์ค่ะออนไลน์ก็อาจจะเป็นคลิปวิดีโอผ่านโซเชียลมีเดียนะคะเอ่อแล้วก็ออนไซต์เนี่ยพวกเราจะทำเป็นโปสเตอร์แล้วก็แผนพับนะคะเกี่ยวกับ CC26 เพื่อให้เด็กแล้วก็เยาวชนเนี่ยเข้าใจในเรื่องนี้ด้วยค่ะ แล้วก็ในนามของตัวแทนเยาวชนเพื่อสิทธิเด็กและนานนะคะหนูก็อยากจะอ่าสัญญานะคะว่าจะตั้งใจร่วมมือขับเคลื่อนสิทธิเด็ก แล้วก็สิ่งแวดล้อมอย่างเต็มที่เต็มกำลังมากๆค่ะพวกเราเนี่ยยินดีทั้งพวกเรายินดีที่จะร่วมมือกับรัฐบาลระดับชาติระดับท้องถิ่นนะคะหน่วยงานภาคส่วนต่างๆแล้วก็องค์กรนานาชาตินะคะที่พร้อมที่จะร่วมกันสร้างโลกให้น่าอยู่ขึ้นค่ะ พวกเราพร้อมที่จะขับเคลื่อนแน่นอนค่ะ เพราะว่าเด็กและเยาวชนเนี่ยจะอยู่กับโลกนี้ไปอีกนานค่ะ ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you so much, for your commitment. The best part I like in your reaction is your commitment to work locally, nationally, and with especially with government, and your commitment to start a campaign and disseminate GC26. So I really like that. That's the best part you reacted on. So thank you so much for your commitment. And best wishes, of course, to you as well. We will be looking forward in the future to hear your success on those commitments. So moving on to our next panelist, Katerina. So how do you feel about this achievement and what are your reactions to this strong advocacy tool?
Well, I think my reactions from seeing the General Comment 26 be launched are kind of mixed. I have mixed feelings for it. I'm very optimistic to have finally an official guide that included children's perspective in its whole process to be created about the matter of the climate and environmental crisis and how governments, businesses, and the society can take action. Yet I also am wondering, how are you going to make sure the next steps, the implementation isn't? Because it's one thing for governments and for businesses to say, I will do it and I will commit it. And it's a totally different thing for them effectively to take action. I believe all of us who are involved in the climate crisis, we know how many false promises we have seen people and governments and nations make. And that's very frustrating. And a specific opinion of myself, I'd much rather hear people say the truth. So if there is someone contributed to the violation of my rights, then please show you're doing that. Don't hide behind a false promise. That's something that I also felt while seeing the General Comment being launched. Yet, even with this realistic idea that I brought, I know that we have a global community. I see a global youth community here that is working together to ensure General Comment 26 is getting into the hands of the government officials, into the hands of businesses, into the hands of society, to make sure its implementation is effective and it reaches places that usually it wouldn't reach. And especially reaching society, because if society knows what are their rights, then they will be able to fight for these rights. And with that said, I am very optimistic, but also am sure that I'm going to work hard to make sure that my rights, together with the General Comment 26, are ensured. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. So powerful. Like, I'll use your one sentence. I really like it. Don't hide behind the false promises. So I really like that. And your overall reaction is so powerful. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. So now I would like to move on to Dhruv for the next question. And Dhruv, my question to you would be, what are your contributions to the General Comment 26 and how have you been involved in this piece?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jennifer, for the question. Individually, I raised awareness about General Government 26 by integrating information for the GC26 questionnaire and creative resources that are available on the General Government 26 site in the various blogs and online workshops that I organized for children and adults. I received, and very excitingly, I received a lot of valuable feedback from children on these advocacy projects. For instance, in line with what Dr. Najat was saying, Kazakhstan, which is a country that's not as discussed on international scales, and where children say that they're not as well supported by the government to express their views. Many children there said that that air pollution is a significant concern in their lives, but they never thought of it as a child rights issue, or they never thought of demanding answers from their government for not upholding their right to a healthy environment prior to reading about the General Comment 26 and reading the questionnaire. And obviously, with the COVID-19 advisory group, we contributed to a submission, the Committee on the Rights of the Child, where we child advisors discussed crucial obstacles to child leadership in climate advocacy, such as climate anxiety that stems from misleading climate information and children's exclusion, just as Katrina was saying, from policy making, which is often adult dominated, and obviously because of that, it's often adult centric as well, without any regards to the rights of the child. But we didn't, and one of the important points that came out of it is that vulnerable and marginalized children, as Dr. Najat said, are often the worst hit by the crisis. But we didn't stop at just brainstorming the problems, which were very apparent, but we also brainstormed some solutions, which included, in a very brief summary, a comprehensive climate education for every child in a way that the child understands, direct child involvement in policy making, and ensuring that the rules and the promises, as Katrina said, leaders don't just hide behind it, but actually enforce it as well in the real life. And shifting the climate narrative from an alarmist and pessimistic messaging to recognizing that, yes, the climate crisis is a global issue, but at the same time highlighting the stories of hope and resilience all around the world. This was an exciting opportunity for all of us, and I observed that despite our regional differences, we all shared a passionate commitment to recognizing intersectional and intergenerational climate action as a common good, or as Dr. Najat said, a future investment for both current and future generations. So that is how I engaged with General Government 26, but I'm really excited to know how the other panelists did as well. And I'll pass the ball back to you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Dhruv. That's amazing. And it's very wonderful to hear about your contributions to this important topic. It's really very important, as you highlighted about marginalized group of children, and also you highlighted the submission of COVID-19 to General Comment 26. So thank you so much for all those insights. And for our audiences, if you want to read our submission to General Comment 26, that we contributed as a group from COVID-19, you can read from the link that is in the chat box. So thank you, Dhruv. Thank you for that. So now I would like to move to Karin. Karin, how do you feel we can spread awareness about GC26 and implement it for the sake of the environment?
Actually, we as Mtoto News, we have actually created a game to help spread awareness in semi-arid and arid areas in Kenya. We're working on it, and it's currently a prototype, but it's an Uno-like game where you have one natural disaster and a calamity and a solution to that calamity. And let's say you have drought and your friend has rain. So your friend will give you the rain and so that you can solve your drought. And the game is counted using environmental points. So the more environmental points that you have, the closer you are to winning. And when you reach 50 environmental points, you win the game. We actually also have another game that's online. It's called Toto Gone Green for the more privileged people like us, we have like laptops and we can download. So it's technically like it's an Animal Crossing sort of game, if you've ever played it. You have a world and you're supposed to help rejuvenate that world by planting trees. If you want to plant a tree, you buy like if you buy a tree, a real tree is planted in real life. You can also pick up litter, you can help clean, you can most things that are usually done to help help reduce the effect of climate change. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's exciting that you mentioned about the games for the sustainable world, for for climate change issues and all. So yeah, that's interesting and something new. I have never heard of all those things. So I would really love to check those out. And maybe if anyone wants to check, if you have any link, you can share in the chat box. Karen, thank you so much for mentioning those things. Anna, I would like to hear your perspective as well on the same question. What are your thoughts on this? How can we spread awareness on this piece, and then how can we implement it for our environment?
Okay, hi. I think that a great way to share this work that we're doing right now is to translate it to many languages of the world, because many children deserve to read and to have this material with them, maybe in a physical form too. That's what we have discussed in many meetings, in many events, that sometimes children in marginalized countries or countries with difficult situations do not have enough access to internet. And it's more easy, it's really easier to them to access this information if we give it to them in a physical form. And yeah, it would be more accessible if we could translate it to many languages, because the problem that I think that I have found in many of these documents, in many of these topics, is that many materials are just covered in English. And for example, I work in Venezuela, and our official language is Spanish, even though in most organizations, most of us speak English. In the case of my organization, I'm one of the few people working there that speaks English. And sometimes I have to translate myself the materials to show them to the kids, to show them to the other people that work at the organization. So it's important to make this information more accessible for all of us. And I think this will be a great way to do so. I know that it's sometimes hard because there are like tons of countries in the world, tons of languages and dialects, and sometimes it's not easy. I know that it's a tough work, and it requires a lot of investment, a lot of money, a lot of time and energy also. But it would be something that would help many millions of children in the world, and that would help them a lot. Even if you look at what we're doing now, we are giving the opportunity to people all around the world, no matter the language that they speak. We are providing accessibility to them. In my case, I don't need the translation because I had the opportunity to learn English growing up. But if it wouldn't be the case, and if I wanted to talk in Spanish, I would be provided with the requirements to share this message to you. And that's what matters, giving these opportunities to people, no matter what their language, what their origin or their characteristics are. So yeah, I think that this is really key to make all this more accessible for all children, especially in countries like mine, a third world country. Because sometimes what I have seen also is that children do not have the access to this information in the form of the internet, for example. because we have really poor access to internet services and also sometimes to technological services. So yeah, I think that providing in many languages and in physical form would be a great way to make sure that this information gets to all the small corners of the world.
Thank you so much, Anna, for your insightful and thoughtful response. You talked with your experiences in your office and in your personal life. So that would be one of the best advice because it's linked with your experience. So thank you so much for sharing those things with all the examples so that the audience could understand it in a better way. So Valerie, I would like to pass the question to you. What do you think can be done and how can we spread the awareness? The same question. What do you think could be the effective measures to implement it for the sake of our environment, for the sake of sustainable future? Over to you.
Thank you. Very interesting to hear everybody's perspective and different ideas on how we can take it from there. Of course, as Katarina was saying, it's very important that it doesn't remain just something on paper, but that we see this becoming reality, the general comment. So we all have a role to play in sharing information about the GC26 and in supporting children and young people to use it as a tool to achieve tangible change in their communities and to hold their governments accountable as well. So from the point of view of the International Federation of Terre des Hommes, the federation includes 9 member organizations working in 67 countries across the world. And every year, our programs reach over 22 million children and their families. And so our federation has now created a specific task force to advance children's rights to a clean, healthy, and sustainable. And this task force has developed a multi-annual advocacy strategy, including activities to support children promoting the GC26 and ensuring it quickly translate into concrete actions. So this will be implemented and it will be over several years. But in this regard, I think it's also important to mention that while we support children to claim their rights, we also must be very attentive to the principle of do no harm. When it comes to climate activism, we know that children can be exposed to different types of risks, such as facing persecution for their activism or experiencing psychological distress caused by eco-anxiety. So when spreading awareness about the GC26, we must also be cautious to ensure that children are safe. And for example, last year, Terre des Hommes published a guide for practitioners on engaging with children about the climate crisis and violence against children. This guide was developed to support frontline workers around the world to have conversations with children, including with those who are particularly exposed to climate crises, like working children, children on the move. So in a way that mitigates eco-anxiety and supports their mental well-being. So this is, I think, also an important point to bear in mind. Thank you.
This is so powerful, Valerie. Thank you for pointing out those things. You mentioned about children's mental well-being. That's one of the very important things in today's world because we often talk about their physical health, but mental health is so underrated, like in most of the cases. So you talked about that, highlighted that. I really like that. And about the tedious guide and everything. And when adults like you who are working in the field of child rights and all these things since long ago, so when adults like you talk about all these things, when you are all committed towards children's right, children's environmental right, it's really very important thing for us as a young person. It's very important for me as well, because when adults understand the situation, it's more better and easier to work with, you know. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much. So now we will be moving to the question answer round. So if you have not added any of your questions in the question answer, feature question answer function, then please go and use that function and ask your questions. If you have already, now we will go to that round. And for leading us through the Q&A round, I invite Kristen, co-moderator Kristen, to lead us through that round. Over to you, Kristen. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Anuka, for moderating that interesting, fascinating second round of questions. And we are running slightly behind time. However, I think it's really important for us to give time to a last round of questions to the speakers, because there's such richness in everything, in all of the different perspectives from all around the world that you've all shared with us. Some interesting ideas, some new ideas, you know, using games to spread awareness. You know, making sure that we are, you know, always remembering translation. How do we translate? So much advice, such useful, you know, really action-oriented ideas here. So we just maybe very quickly will give, you know, maybe the last round. We do have some questions in the Q&A. So there is actually a question from someone, Gabriela, who's asking Valérie in French, how can we get the guides that you discussed? To that person, we put it in the chat, so it's available there. But there's another question in the chat as well from Cecile asking, could you tell us how we can access the games? So maybe we would like to invite Karen to put the games that she mentioned in the chat as well. But maybe, and there is a question from Shrosh Yasub about how can you share examples of how General Comment number 26 has been applied in practice in different countries. Now, obviously, General Comment 26 is very new, and so it's not started to be applied yet. However, I would like to turn that into a question for final remarks for each panelist to ask them very quickly, what is next? What are you going to do now in order to make sure that General Comment 26 is applied in your country? So I would like to first, can we ask for very brief comments, maybe 30, 40 seconds each. What are you going to do now when you end this call in order to make sure that General Comment 26 is applied? I would like to start with Francisco. Francisco, one thing that you will do now to make sure that General Comment 26 is applied.
Bueno, una sola cosa, es difícil, pero de todas maneras, pues diría que hacer de este comentario, abogar por este comentario, velar por este comentario y también movilizarlo pues con mis demás compañeros en Colombia, en donde somos más de 700 niños. Así que seguir adelante movilizándolo con los gobiernos locales y nacionales también.
Thank you so much, Francisco. That's so important. We're hearing some reactions from Katarina. So Katarina, same question. What is the one thing that you will do now to really apply this, to make this real? We heard your frustrations about false promises, and we heard about all of your inspiring activism. What is the one thing that you're going to do now?
Well, I'll actually say two things. One would be advocacy, working directly with government officials, working with the local government, and hopefully also being able to reach the national government, but also working within my community, with my family, with my friends, in my school community, because small actions also count. Because if we put together all the small actions, then you'll see the amount of actions we actually have and the huge impact we can have. Thank you.
That is so important. I love it. Small actions count and can make a big impact. So I would like to ask the same question to Fa. Fa, what is one thing that you will do now as you leave this meeting to make General Comment real for children in Thailand?
ค่ะหนูนะคะจะเอา GC 26ไปใช้ในเรื่องของการเป็นแบบอย่างให้กับเด็กและเยาวชนค่ะเพราะว่าเราต้องเริ่มจากตัวของเราก่อนค่ะคือหนูเนี่ยอาจจะเริ่มทำจากหนูแล้วก็ด้วยความที่หนูก็เป็นนักขับเคลื่อนนะคะคนก็จะมีแบบ กลุ่มเยาวชนกลุ่มเป้าหมายที่หนูดูไว้อยู่ก็คือ เราก็จะคอยแชร์คอยเป็นแรงขับเคลื่อนในตรงนี้ให้กับน้องๆคนรุ่นต่อๆไปนี้ด้วยค่ะแล้วก็หนูก็จะรักสิ่งแวดล้อมไปด้วยเพื่อที่จะแบบเป็นแบบอย่างให้เขาเห็นจริงๆค่ะเพื่อให้เขาเห็นว่ามีคนทำแล้วเขาจะได้ทำค่ะ
Wonderful. I love the emphasis on schools. It's so important to think, how can we get this into curricula? How can we get this, you know, even for young children using games, as Karen said. So Karen, maybe to you, what will you be doing now? One thing as you leave this, what will you be doing this week to act on General Comment 26 and to make it real for you and children in Kenya?
I think that I'm going to share the general comment with my classmates and schoolmates to just spread awareness on climate rights, and that us children can do something to teach each other on whatever is going on around the climate. And also how the climate can affect our lives and how we are the future generation, and if we don't act now, we'll have a messed up planet to deal with. Maybe it will be beyond, by the time that we are the leading generation, we will be like, the planet will be messed up, corrupt, be beyond repair. So I'll just try and spread awareness with my school. I'll tell my class, I'll tell my classmates, I'll tell everyone that I know about whatever we have talked about here and how we can help fix climate change.
Amazing, Karen. I would love to hear the same. I'd love to hear from Anna. Anna, what will you be doing now in Venezuela to support the implementation of GC26?
Okay, right now in Venezuela, what I would start doing would be like imparting workshops on how climate change affects the rights of children in my country. And that's what I've been doing from some time now. Shout out to Katarina that helped me like grab the forces and the confidence to do so. And yeah, after that I started doing these workshops and imparting like small conferences to children, to people at my supporting organization, at the school that I graduated from. And it's a small work of informing all these people about these topics. And also I've been informing myself with experts on how climate change and climate crisis affects my country and all the little things to it. So it's a work of informing myself to inform others, to educate others, other children, to use the rights, and also most importantly to advocate for them, to advocate for Venezuelan children in events like this one, and also to advocate to Venezuelan children on ministries, on like public spaces and spaces of participation here in my country, to make our voices heard. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes we face really big challenges, especially in a country like mine with such a complicated human rights situation. But nevertheless, I will not stop. I will not stop trying. And I know that now I have the support of many people like me, that like you, that in different situations, in different countries and instances, also fight for the rights of children and the rights of children to live a happy and safe and healthy life.
Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you for that reflection on, again, some of the challenges that children face, particularly in different countries. There's a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to do this work. And it takes a lot of togetherness. It takes community. So I would also like to ask the question to Dhruv, and very briefly, Dhruv, what is your next step to take this forward? And then to Valerie, and then to our special guest, live streaming from Geneva, who's being very patient in the background. So first to you, Dhruv, and then Valerie.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. So I have two things. Sorry. The first thing would be obviously doing the thing that I'm best at writing. I've been doing this ever since I was born. Using the information from the General Comment 26 and converting that into compelling stories and translating the complex ideas such as right to education, right to indigenous language, culture, changing that into a story or a poem that is easily understood by children. That is one of my next steps. And the second one would be, and this I just got the idea during this meeting, hearing Catherine and all the other advocates, was that finding the middle ground. Oftentimes we see ourselves in opposition to governments, but sometimes it's also about finding the middle ground. And I think one of the ways that we can do this is by thinking about the co-benefits of some of the suggestions that have been given to countries. For example, the right to education, right? Including climate education and including education about risk management in curriculums can have a great impact in a future and long-lasting impact even for the country, because if children are healthy, if they are able to participate, then they are going to participate even in the economy. So thinking about these co-benefits and putting that into paper and using that as a tool to advocate, I believe that would be a great next step for me.
I love the idea. Like, there's so many more ideas to come by coming together. Just this conversation. I love that you already have a new idea, Dhruv, just by being here today. And Valerie, what about you? What are you going to do? What is the next steps in your plans?
Well, yes, I mean, there is quite a lot ahead of us, but I think because it's a very important first step, but of course we want this to translate into action. This is what we really want. So for that, I think the task force, the fact that will be really looking into this issue, in particular, the fact that it's multi-annual, that we are engaging for the fight on the long run. So this is now going to start, and of course the general comment will be very much central to this advocacy strategy and to the work. We are exploring, I'm not promising anything, but I know that we are already exploring maybe how we could make the child advisory team become more of a permanent body that could follow the general comment implementation. So this is not yet, this is just something we have been trying, we are exploring, I would say right now. So that could be possibly something that happens after this first step. And I want to say that, yes, Kristen, it takes courage, I would say, to continue this fight. I think it also requires perseverance. I want to say, I think maybe one of the messages I want to send, because I see so much enthusiasm, passion from all of you and goodwill. And I want to really say that first of all, we need to join our forces together. We are ready to support you in the fight. And I think we should not give up at all, despite maybe sometimes very challenging context and step backs, because this is the only way forward. We have to keep hoping, we have to keep fighting, and we can do this in a more impactful way if we do it together. So that will be my last word.
Thank you so much, Valerie. And yeah, I can't think of a better way to have ended this panel by then all of your recommendations together and the unity and the complementarity that all of our panelists have expressed, bringing in all of their unique perspectives from across the world. So may I ask everyone to thank our panelists. I would like to thank them. Thank you for a dynamic discussion. We loved hearing from you. We will now, unfortunately, the translation will now be stopping, but we are not finished yet. We hope that you will all stay with us for another 15 minutes, because we have a very special guest who's joining us live from Geneva. And hopefully maybe some others with him. So just for the last 10 minutes of our discussion today, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to Pratit. So Pratit, I can see you on the screen. I'm going to also add you. And then also wanted to thank our translators. Thank you very much to Nikki and Lourdes for translating into Thai and Spanish and making this event accessible to children in those countries. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Pratit, who is our a COVID under-19 peer mentor. And Pratit is child rights activist from India who's been involved with COVID-19 and has been advocating for intergenerational partnerships between children and adults and for community awareness about children's rights for many years. So Pratit, who's in Geneva, is going to tell us a little bit about his views. We have Priyashi and Januka who will also be asking you some questions. But maybe before we hear from Priyashi and Januka about their questions, just tell us, how does it feel to be in Geneva today, Pratit?
It's been a great day. In fact, the celebrations are still continuing since the morning. It all began around 11 a.m. when the Palais des Nations, the members of the CRC met to have a preliminary discussion on the launch. We also had children from around the world joining from different parts of the world. And in fact, right now, I am at the last part of this celebration where a tree is being planted to mark this day of the launch of the General Commentary 26. And I will just be turning my camera to see if you can see the gathering. We have the mayor, we have several members of the CRC, including Professor Philippe Jaffé, and others who are there to commemorate the day by planting a tree. And since the morning, the message has been one that this is a big step towards fulfilling children's rights with respect to climate change. And perhaps I would say also a high time to recognize that we need to act and we need to act urgently. So we've seen a lot of observations over the day. Several new steps have been taken from the CRC side, a call for civil society to be involved, a strict call for governments to take action, and also an accountability mechanisms wherein children can open up about their complaints to governments and committees like the CRC. So it's been a great day, a marvelous step towards the cause of children's rights with respect to climate change. And yeah, I feel marvelous.
Thank you, Pratit. Thank you. I feel almost like I'm there. Priyashi, Januka, over to you both.
Thank you, Kristen. Pratit, it's so nice to hear how exciting it is to be in Geneva, where you've witnessed the launch of the General Comment 26. But what has been your highlight from the event today?
There have been just so many highlights because this event is so special. But one of the main highlights, I would say, is perhaps listening to the narratives of children and young people who have been affected the most by climate change, whose countries have been affected the most by climate change, and how their livelihoods have been affected. Hearing from these children in the halls of the United Nations, beyond the general bureaucracy that we know the UN for, is something very remarkable. Because today at the UN, when I heard that children from around the world could be a part of regular sessions and could narrate their experiences and tell us what's been actually happening with marginalized communities in their country, that was a shaking moment. And that was perhaps also a moment of realization. And I feel that was perhaps, I think for me, it was definitely the highlight of the day.
Thank you so much. Januka, please go ahead.
Thank you, Priyashi. Thank you so much, Pratit. It's so exciting, so exciting to hear from you and seeing you in the plantation program right now and hearing your highlights from the event. We are really very happy, like from the COVID-19 team and from all of us, like you are representing the voices of children and young people in such a huge milestone movement. And we are really very proud of you. And it sounds like you are a journalist of COVID-19 today. So my question to you is, after this event in Geneva, what will you be doing to continue to support the dissemination of GC26 to other children and young people across the globe?
We seem to have lost Pratit. Oh.
I'm sure with Professor Philippe would actually be more apt in answering the question on what we have here. The question we have is that what beyond the launch of the general commentary, how do we see the launch of the general comment beyond the rooms of the UN, and what's next?
Okay, can you hear me well? Can you just make a sign? Great. So wonderful to see you. The objective is, the strategy is, first of all, to disseminate to all states. And what we're going to do is we're going to make contact with all the UN states and make sure that they read the general comment and answer us on how they're going to implement its recommendations. Then we're also going to have a strategy meeting with various stakeholders. I'm not sure exactly which ones are going to take part, on how we can make sure that stakeholders have backing support from international institutions to carry out actions and programs in various states. But what our main job is going to be is to, how should I say it, keep states on their toes when they come for their constructive dialogue with the committee. So this has a bit of a negative side in the sense that we only review 25 countries per year. And so it would take us 5-6 years before we meet all the countries that ratify the convention. But there are other fora as well. There's UPR. There are other treaty bodies where it can be brought up. And I was just speaking to the ambassador in Slovenia. She thinks that it can be brought up in other regions. So one more point, if I may, very quickly. We're very much counting on regional initiatives. I'm requested to participate in an event in Asia. Africa is so mobilized, African children and African civil society. In fact, they're having 2 competing tree planting ceremonies today in Nairobi and New York. So we just need to keep the momentum going on all parts. How's that?
Thank you so much, Professor Jaffe.
Bye-bye. See you later. Ciao, ciao. Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you so
you just
much,
heard from Professor Jaffe what lies ahead, and I feel there's a lot of prospect from this commentary to grow up into what we see children's rights and climate change materializing through member states, through region, as Professor Jaffe said, and through the wider institutions of the United Nations themselves.
Thank you so much, Prateek, for connecting Philip Jaffe with his thoughts and insights during our event today. And thank you also for sharing your thoughts and insights and also taking us to the event. We feel that we are there in the event, witnessing with our eyes. So thank you for being our voices of children and young people who are really very happy and proud of you. And we will grow together with this milestone. So thank you, everyone. So yeah, this is the question we have. Now we are like at the end of our event, and we will have now 5 minutes. We will take 5 minutes of yours before we end the event. So thank you, everyone, for being part of this event. And now I would like to pass it to Kristen, if you have anything. Otherwise, over to our master of ceremony.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Pratit, for joining and for being so patient and for joining in Geneva. There's lots of budding journalists in the room, even though Karen is probably the official journalist from Mtoto News and our youngest panelist. I think, Karen, there's a lot of budding journalism in the room. So, and in the Zoom room and in Geneva and around the world. So yes, I just would like to, as a final piece, invite all of our panelists, if any, panelists who've already answered this question, all of our audience, to share with us what would you like to do next. This is a request for you to tell us how will you be sharing information about General Comment 26 in your communities, with your schools. You heard many different ideas now. So there's a Jamboard here in your own time. You can go into that Jamboard. You could leave us a note. You can tell us your name, your age. Please just tell us your first name, your age, where you're from, and what you are going to be doing now. We want to hear from you, and we want to really understand that we are still stronger together, and that there's many actions across the world that's going to, take us further in achieving these ambitions and achieving this vision. We heard from Philip Jaffe that the committee will be working with states. We heard from many of you that you will be informing your peers and leading your communities. And it's very, very inspirational. There's a lot of hope today. And with that, I'd like to hand over to our MCs who will close the session today. Over to you, Amrit and Ridoshi.
Thank you so much, Kristen. So yeah, it discussion today was really great. Each of the speakers had valuable insights to put forward. And personally, I enjoyed and learned a lot today. I would like to ask this question to Radoshi that how do you feel about the event, Radoshi? And as a child advising COVID-19 and as a child, what would you be doing to support children's environmental right? Over to you, Radoshi.
I must say, I'm really amazed by all our panelists' energy and passion on it. And of course, it was a very unique one since it was led by children. And I'm hoping that it was very inspirational for all and children especially. Now, answering to your question, I have tons of ideas in my mind, but firstly, I'll launch a few projects which will be based on spreading awareness about climate change and how to maintain a safe and healthy environment for all, which will be starting from my college to the government in my country. I also plan to spread awareness against smoking since it is really harmful for both our health and environment. Lastly, I suggest and request everyone to come forward and work together from your own place and bring a change to tackle climate change and make our environment a safe, healthy for all. And once again, utmost thanks to all our panelists, partners, and audience for your patience and enthusiasm till the very end of this event. Over to Amrit.
Thank you so much, Radoshi. That was really wonderful. And yes, once again, thank you to all our well-wishers and supporting hands. To know more about us and our activities, do follow us on our social media handles. We have our Facebook page, Instagram account, Twitter account, and YouTube channel with the name #COVID-19. Recording of today's event can be found on social media handles of Mtoto News and #COVID-19. For additional information on General Comment and other child rights-based activities, do follow General Comment 26 Child Advisory Team, Terre, Hommes International Federation, COVID-19, Child Rights Connect, CRC Asia, Office of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children, and Children's Environmental Rights Initiative social media handles. With this, a very closing remarks from my side would be, with the urge to uphold children's right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, I'd like to depart with the hope of seeing you all again. Bye-bye. Namaste. Over to you, Radoshi.
General Comment 26 is not just a treaty, but also a resemblance to children's rights in various perspectives. And it has opened a new door for possibility for us, adults, the rich ones, and every nation should prioritize children's rights and environment and thus work accordingly and simultaneously with children to save our planet and the next generations. Likewise, we have reached the end of the event right now, and we are hoping to see all this enthusiasm and determination when we are in the field, working together to bring a change. May peace be upon everyone.